My friends, I am Agathon, son of Lysander, commander of 100 brave souls in the Macedonian phalanx. Though years have passed since that fateful day on the plains of Gaugamela, the memories remain vivid, as if etched into my mind by the gods themselves. It was there, under the banner of Alexander, that we faced the might of the Persian Empire and carved our names into history. Allow me to take you into the heart of that momentous battle, as seen through my eyes and felt in my soul. The morning of the battle was eerie. A thin mist clung to the plains, swirling over the dew-laden ground like the breath of restless spirits. It promised to burn away with the rising sun, but for now, it cloaked the field in an unsettling quiet. Our camp stirred with subdued activity. Men polished their helmets and inspected their shields, muttering prayers to Ares and Athena. Alexander, our king, had gathered us the night before, speaking words that ignited a fire within our hearts. He was not merely a king, he was a force of nature. At 25, he had accomplished feats that bards would sing of for centuries. His gaze was piercing, as if he could see not only into the hearts of men, but also the fabric of destiny itself. When Alexander spoke, it was as if Zeus himself commanded us. Tomorrow, we face the end of one world and the birth of another, he said, his voice firm yet calm. The Persians have the numbers, but we have the will, the discipline, and the gods on our side. Fight not for me, but for yourselves, for your brothers, and for the glory of Macedon. We cheered, raising our spears high, a forest of iron glinting under the torchlight. Yet, as we settled into our makeshift camp, the enormity of the task ahead weighed heavily upon us. Sleep came fitfully, dreams of home and death intertwining as the night wore on. When the first rays of dawn broke, they painted the sky in hues of gold and crimson, as if heralding both glory and bloodshed. Darius III, the Persian king of kings, awaited us with an army so vast it seemed to stretch from horizon to horizon. I had heard tales of his chariots, their wheels fitted with scythes meant to tear through infantry like wheat at harvest. His cavalry, they said, was unmatched in number and ferocity. And then there was the Persian king himself, a man cloaked in opulence, but burdened by the weight of his crumbling empire. Darius was a figure of contrast. Though he ruled the largest empire the world had ever seen, he was in many ways a man plagued by insecurity. He relied heavily on his generals and the sheer size of his forces, a strategy that had served him well in quelling rebellions, but faltered against Alexander's relentless campaigns. Where Alexander was a lion, bold, decisive, and unyielding, Darius seemed more a stag, regal but skittish when cornered. As we formed ranks, I took a moment to survey our army. My phalanx stood at the core, a wall of shields and sarissas stretching as far as the eye could see. Each man was a veteran, hardened by years of campaigning. The bronze of their helmets and the iron tips of their spears glinted in the sunlight, a testament to their readiness. To my right were the companions, the elite cavalry led by Alexander himself. They were our hammer, swift and devastating, their mounts snorting and pawing at the ground as if eager for battle. To my left, the lighter troops and allied cavalry waited, their role less glamorous, but no less crucial. We were fewer than 50,000, dwarfed by the Persian host, yet the unity among us was palpable. Each man knew his place, his duty, and his brothers beside him. The Persians, by contrast, were a sprawling sea of humanity. Their army was a patchwork of cultures and fighting styles. I saw Bactrian horsemen adorned in furs, Scythian archers with their deadly bows, and even war elephants brought from the farthest reaches of their empire. At the center of their line, Darius's golden chariot gleamed, surrounded by the immortals, his elite guard. It was a display meant to intimidate, and I would be lying if I said it did not send a chill through me. But then I looked to Alexander, and fear was replaced by resolve. He rode his horse, Bucephalus, along the line, his armor catching the first rays of the sun. In his presence, we were invincible. The battle began with the thunder of Persian chariots, their scythe wheels glinting as they tore across the plain toward our center. My men braced, shields locked, spears angled like a deadly porcupine. But Alexander had anticipated this. He had stationed light infantry ahead of us, men armed with javelins and instructed to target the horses and drivers. The chariots, so fearsome in legend, faltered under the precise volleys. Some crashed into each other, others veered off course, their drivers slain. By the time they reached our lines, their momentum was broken, and we dispatched the remnants with ease. Meanwhile, on our right flank, Alexander led the companions in a daring maneuver. Feigning a retreat, they drew the Persian cavalry away from their positions. I could see the gap forming in the Persian center, a weakness waiting to be exploited. It was then that the true brilliance of Alexander's strategy became clear. As the Persian cavalry pursued the retreating companions, Alexander wheeled his forces around in a sharp arc, leading a direct charge at the heart of the enemy lines. The roar of the charge was deafening, a mix of hooves pounding the earth and the shouts of men steeled for battle. The Persian center, once a solid wall of soldiers, began to buckle under the onslaught. My phalanx advanced in unison, step by deliberate step, pushing against the Persian infantry. The sarissas, so unwieldy in training, became instruments of death. I remember the resistance as my spear thrust into an enemy soldier, the sickening crunch of bone giving way. There was no time to dwell on the horror. The battle demanded focus. Amid the chaos, I glimpsed Darius. His chariot was surrounded by his guard, but even from a distance, I could see the fear in his eyes. He was no warrior king like Alexander. When the pressure became too great, he did what I'd later learn was typical of him. He fled, abandoning his chariot. He mounted a horse and disappeared into the fray, leaving his army leaderless. The moment Darius fled, the Persian army's cohesion dissolved. What had been a disciplined force devolved into a mass of terrified men seeking escape. We pressed our advantage, driving them back and cutting them down as they fled. The plains of Gaugamela became a graveyard, the earth soaked with the blood of countless warriors. Severed limbs and broken bodies lay scattered like the remnants of a violent storm. The cries of the wounded mingled with the groans of the dying, a chorus of agony that would haunt my dreams for years to come. As the sun set, casting long shadows over the battlefield, I stood among the remnants of the Persian army, my spear heavy with blood and my body aching from the day's exertion. Alexander, ever the symbol of unyielding ambition, was already planning his next move. For him, this was not the end, but merely another step toward his ultimate goal, the conquest of the known world. Looking back, I see the Battle of Gaugamela not just as a victory but as a turning point in history. It was a testament to the power of unity, strategy, and leadership. Under Alexander, we were more than soldiers. We were instruments of destiny. And though I am but a humble commander, my part in that great endeavor is a memory I carry with pride and sorrow. For in the glory of victory, there is always the shadow of what it cost.